Welcome to episode 23 of the Polish the Mirror podcast. I'm your host, Amy Thurman. I am so glad you're here. This is the last episode in season one of the Polish the Mirror podcast. And so, oh my goodness, I feel so many things. Like I have so many emotions rattling around in here, but it's just been such an exciting season. And I was telling our guest before we started that this podcast pretty much happened on accident. Like I didn't really know that I was doing a podcast. I had something else completely different in mind. I was just going to have people come on and talk about their emotions. And then people started referring to it as a podcast. And I thought, I guess I do have a podcast. And so here we are, the Polish the Mirror podcast, the podcast that happened on accident. Oh my goodness. But this podcast, it was created as a reflection of my life. If you are unfamiliar with my story, I have lived the past 10 years with a broken neck that went undiscovered for 6 months. I was completely incapacitated for nearly a year, had to lay flat in bed for 23 hours a day. I went from doing all the things with my kids to the very next day, I couldn't even take myself to the restroom. But in the midst of that, over the past decade, I've been able to find hope. I have figured out a way to use that story, to use my experience to help other people. And so that's what I'm doing. That's what I do now. And I noticed that I couldn't really find a platform like this for people to share their stories of hope gained in the midst of adversity. So I created one. So after it started on accident, then I shifted it to on purpose. And that is what I have been doing on purpose, allowing people a platform to share their stories of hope gained in the midst of adversity. And that's what we're here for. If this is your first time watching or listening, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you want to catch the others, go to hashtag Polish the Mirror podcast. It's streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all the places. And then I upload the audio to the podcasting platform so that you can find it there as well. Again, hashtag Polish the Mirror podcast. That will take you to all of the episodes. All right, so let's get into this today. I want to introduce you to my guest today. Welcome, Shawntae. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
I did not realize it was the end of the season. I'm so honored to be a part of the end of the season. Congratulations on your first year and season. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it has been. Like I said, it has turned into something I didn't expect. And in all honesty, my world is just exploding with all kinds of things, and I'm really having to balance a lot of things. And my body is telling me I need to take a break. And so the podcast will continue, just so all of you know, it's going to continue. It's just going to be a break time. So I'm going to at least take the month of July, at least take a month off, and kind of recalibrate, and I will be back. It will take a different form, like it'll still be the same, but in a different form. But yeah, so that's pretty much what happened. But yeah, I'm so excited that you get to finish out the last of the episodes too. It's so fun. So I love that you're here, and I can't wait to hear your story that you have to share with us. So go ahead, the stage is yours. Share your story of hope gained in the midst of adversity, Shantae.
Well, thank you again for inviting me. Um, when I think back, this was a couple years ago. I've been going through this kind of process for the past couple years. When I think back to it, it started when I was working in healthcare. That was my dream. I had graduated high school and I knew I was going into healthcare. I knew I was going to go into nursing and all of these things the medical field was going to be it. That's where I was going. And I had no idea that things were going to change on me. I had 10 years of climbing the ladder in this private practice. And I started off as a medical assistant, and then I went into managing this multi-million-dollar practice. And I absolutely loved it. And then COVID hit. And COVID was a rough thing for everybody, especially in healthcare. It kind of changed everything. And I
Yeah.
feel like one of the things I kind of say is I feel like it took the mask off people. I feel like it kind of like it showed true colors of people. The people that were kind of hiding who they were professionally or whatever, it revealed it because everybody was overstressed, so they couldn't hide anymore. So like when I went after COVID, I went back to this. I continued working through COVID with this healthcare practice, and continued to love my job, but it was hard. I had a toddler at home, and about a year later, I ended up pregnant with my second. And it was about that time that I started experiencing some harassment and some issues at work. I did everything I could to kind of get it to end, to get past it, to not have to deal with it anymore because I still loved my job. I just the anxiety of going there every single day and not knowing what was going to happen to me, not knowing if I was going to get fired, not knowing if I was going to get harassed, not knowing if I was going to get bullied that day. It was a lot, and it was probably the first time I experienced like true anxiety. Like I had to drive to work about an hour each day, and I remember I would kind of I'm going to get emotional here.
It's
I
okay.
remember
Cheers and healthy.
I remembered I would kind of I would give myself like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get to work, even though it only took me an hour, because I knew that I would have to stop at some point in time and finish a panic attack before I can get back on the road to go back to work. And it was like that every single day, and it got worse and worse the further along I got pregnant. And it could have been partially pregnancy hormones, but the harassment started before I was pregnant. So it wasn't just that, but it became rough. And I remember really leaning into my faith at that time. And I remember going into prayer and saying, you know, God, make these people stop, make this go away. I love my job. I want to come here. I love serving my clients. I love helping them with their medical stuff. I love being their advocate, but this emotionally is tearing me apart. And I remember saying to him, like, just make it go away. Like, what do I need to do to make this go away?
Fix this. Yes, fix this.
Yeah, like, take this away from me. I can't deal with it anymore. I've hit my limit. Make it go away. And the response I got back was that it's not going to go away. You have to leave. You don't have a choice. If you want this to stop, you have to leave. And there you go. I'm getting emotional.
Okay.
And then I remember saying, but this is my career. This is my life. This is what I know, and this is what I love. I don't want to leave. I just want this to go away. But I was told it wasn't going to go away, and I believed it. So I had to start figuring something else out. At that point in time, I was probably about 5 or 6 months pregnant, and I had the toddler at home. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, if I quit this job, I don't know what else I'm gonna do, and I don't know what else I'm gonna do, and I make about 60% of our income. So what are we gonna do financially with a toddler, me being pregnant, and losing 60% of our income? You know, I just remember thinking, like, how Lord, how this is out of my hands. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I had faith that if he told me I needed to leave, it was going to be okay. So I left. I started looking at other options. I started thinking about my passions and what I call my God-given gifts. And I just couldn't. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew that I was talented, and I knew that there was things that I could do. I just didn't know what at that point in time. So I just kept researching while I was working there. I kept putting my head down, going to work every day, doing what I needed to do. And then when I went on maternity leave, that's when I decided, you know, I'm not going back. I can't go back. So I quit my job with a toddler and a newborn, lost 60% of our income, and said, we're going to figure it out. And I was watching one of your other episodes, and I'm spacing on the woman's name, but in the episode she was talking about the thing about changes that we make out of necessity financially. And in the episode, she was saying that sometimes we just do these things out of necessity. Like we have to find a way to make it work. Um, and instead of saying, okay, well, let me cut back here and cut back here, let me go and figure out a way to make this work. And so we had to cut back. We didn't have a choice. So we cut back.
Right.
And it was about that time that I started realizing that my passion for finances was just something that I couldn't not pursue. So I went into finances and ended up opening up my own business. And 2 years later, I am so glad I am done with that. I found my new identity in Christ and my relationship with Him, and building my business for Him to serve His kingdom. And it's been absolutely amazing. And even though I still get emotional, it's partially happy emotions because I had to go through that adversity to get me out of my comfort zone. Because if I had not been put through that adversity, I probably would have stayed in that comfort zone and not done things that I was supposed to. So
Yes. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. I love this story because it resonates so deeply with me because the same, like first of all, I'm glad you listened and I'm glad you took action before it was too late. And I say too late because that's what I did. In my life, I heard it, I listened, but I didn't take action, and I kept going and kept going, and I had to end up almost dying several times to really get my attention to say, okay, I'm serious about this. Like you have to do something. And just like you, what I'm doing now, I'm able to help so many more people. Yes, I've gone through lots of stuff that I would never wish on anyone, but I've learned so much throughout the process that I'm able to use it to help other people now. And I'm helping so many more people now than than I was ever able to do before. But there's like the key right there is to be opening to hearing that. Like you have to get quiet enough and be aware enough of your spirit and your soul to hear it, and then be willing to take the action even though you cannot see the steps ahead. And that's the hardest part, wouldn't you say?
that faith. Yeah. I had started on I was raised in faith, but I kind of pulled away from it as I got older. You know, when you're in your late teens, early 20s, you think you know everything and you
Oh
think you don't
yes.
need anything.
Yes.
So I pulled away from it, but then I started to come back to it in the past couple years, a little before all of this started happening. And it's like it was the perfect time to lean into my faith because this is not something I could have done on my own. I couldn't have gone into work every single day facing what I was facing, knowing that there was a way out. There was some hope there because there were
Wow.
definitely times I felt like there was absolutely no hope and I was going to be stuck in this place that I absolutely hated at that point in time. Um, I wouldn't have
Right.
had that
Yeah.
if it wasn't for my faith.
Yeah, exactly. And faith means different things to different people. You know, it can be faith in humanity, faith in the goodness of the world, faith in, the universe, faith in our soul. It can't, faith means different things to different people. And so we're not just saying it's one type of faith. We're just saying it just whatever you believe, the faith in that, the faith that whatever you believe is going to take care of you plays a huge role in this because I firmly believe that we were not meant to be on this earth to be alone, to do things by ourselves, to do things alone. We have to have a community. We have to have other people to help us. We have to have faith in something to know that we're going to be taken care of. And I feel like that's a key right there. In it doesn't matter what you have faith in, but just the process of having that faith can bring about the hope. And I feel like that in this definition of hope, that faith in whatever you believe in is really key. And so, yeah, it plays a huge role. I agree.
Well, faith is the things not seen and believing the things not seen. So whatever it is that you believe in, that you can't see, that'll bring you some hope, because there's so many people that are struggling with all these different things. I mean, I wouldn't wish what I went through on anybody, but my story is not uncommon. My story is not something that I'm alone in. There's other people that have been through it well before I went through it. There's people that made it out even better than I did, or got out the moment it started happening and didn't push through for another several months while they were pregnant. You know, there's other people that do it differently, but the point is faith in the things not seen, and knowing that there's hope in it, and you're not alone no matter what. You're not alone. You're not the only one.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to also bring up the fact that faith is the opposite of fear, and that you can't have faith and fear at the same time. You can't experience, I mean, for that matter, you can't experience two emotions at the same time, much less two opposing emotions. But I know that in my life, this is what I feel like society really pushes fear on us. Like they want us to be, you know, fearful, and they want us to be full of grief and shame and, all of those things. I feel like that society pushes that on us in different ways through religion, through politics, in all the ways they really are pushing fear. And in my life, I have determined I'm not going to live in fear. Like I determined that after my accident years ago, that when I was so fearful of not being able to use my cane anymore, I remember this specifically. I was so fearful I was going to fall again because I didn't have my cane. And I determined then I'm not going to live this way. I'm not going to live my life in fear. And so whatever that means, I'm going to just live. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to just live that way, and it's a much more pleasant way to live. Like things, if you have been following me, you have seen the things that are happening in my world, and it's because I don't live in fear. I don't let fear rule my life anymore. I live in faith. I firmly believe that I'm going to be taken care of and that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. And I allow things to just be what they are, good, bad, or ugly. They just are.
Fear is an emotional bondage. It's it's a tool that people use to keep people in their boxes, to keep people
Yes.
from um, meeting what is the ultimate purpose of their life. I mean, if you stay in that bondage, you're stuck in that box, and you don't get to fulfill what it is that you were put on this earth to fulfill. So it's a rough thing that everybody deals with. Everybody struggles with it, but the people that get past it or are able to conquer it, the more they do it, the more they conquer it, and they're just unstoppable.
It's so true. It does take practice. Like I still have to train myself to know that's fear based. I'm not going to do that. And I would encourage any of you watching or listening, if you are not living the life that you want to live, if you are struggling with a lot of things in your life right now, I would ask you to really do some introspection and figure out what you're afraid of, because fear will lead to that. I'm not saying that if you get rid of fear, then life's just going to be magical and easy, although it can be. What I'm saying is that fear prevents us from a lot of things, from going in the direction we need to go, from doing a lot of the things that we're meant to do. And so I really would encourage you, if you're watching or listening right now, put in the chat as a comment, what do you think? Do you experience fear? And think about what exactly are you afraid of? And just like you, Shantae, you could not see beyond this is 60% of my income. I have children to provide for, a family to provide for. What the heck, you know? And yeah, but it takes that's the fear. It takes removing that layer and just being willing to step through it. Close your eyes, grit your teeth, whatever, to step through it, to be able to get to the other side. And I see you now, Shantae, on the other side of that. And oh my gosh, isn't your life so different now?
It's absolutely different. We were talking earlier about the way things have changed in our lives. My daughter which is my second child. She is now almost 2.5 years old. She's a little over 2 years old, and just I could have never imagined I would be where I am today. Um, even 2, 3 years ago. I didn't even know what I do now existed at this point in time. These were all things that were revealed to me step by step as I was going through it. And seeing how this has just been a plan for my life the whole time that I knew nothing about, but I wouldn't have discovered it if I didn't have the faith that I had to leave that career. I could have, like I said, I could have just been stuck in my comfort zone. So,
Exactly. And what happens when we are stuck in that fear is that it's like we have a veil over our eyes where we can't see clearly. We just can't see beyond the fog, beyond the veil to what the potential of what is there. And so we get so used to doing and living the life that we have that we're not able to see the possibilities of what may be able to happen if we step through that and make it to the other side of that. And it's not easy. Like you can say like that was not an easy decision for you to make.
it wasn't. And I think one of the things that really helps with fear, and it's one of the practices that I have, is whenever a um, thought comes to my mind that seems fear based, is writing down the truth and the falsehoods that I'm getting. So let's say, I can't think of an actual example at this moment, but like let's say it's with starting a new job, just because mine was a career thing. Let's say starting a new job, and your first thought is, I'll never be able to make more money. I'll never be able to get to that executive level. I'll never be able to do this, and this. If you write down that fear and then write under it, this is true, this is true, this is true. I've graduated this, I've gotten this degree, I ace these classes, I've worked in this field for this many years, I've put practice into this one way or another throughout my whole life. And then in the other column, the falsehood, you haven't tried it, you don't know. Other people have done it, and who's to say that you can't? And start listing all these things that are false about that thought. That'll help you too, because then you could see that some of this stuff is just fear-based thoughts and not actual truth.
I love that. I love that. And I am a journaler. Oh my gosh, I love to journal. And you're so right. There is something about taking what's inside and bringing it to the paper, putting it on the paper so that you can actually see it. It's like you almost feel more in control of it. Or this is the way I describe it in my program that I have, where we talk about and we go through emotions, is that those emotions are there for a reason. They're part of our communication system and they're trying to get our attention. They're trying to send us a message. But if we fight against them, resist them, or try to push them away, it just makes them stronger. They're going to continue to hang on. But they have a message to send. And when we take them out and put them on the paper, we have acknowledged them. We have acknowledged their message. We have received their message. We can see it clearly. And it's like just taking a sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh, here it is. It's all right here in front of me. And then it's like you can develop a plan of action to go forward from there. But I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that because it's so true. To take it from inside and put it on the paper where you can see it is a very, very powerful technique. I love that.
And kind of like with problem solving, I mean, when you write it down, it helps you to think of ways to get there. You could start thinking of steps to get yourself there. um, it's and the more you do it, the better. The more you step out and prove to yourself, hey, I could do this, or the more you step out and say this is possible, and you actually do those things, the more it helps with that confidence in doing it.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about finding the truth of the matter. This is what I taught my kids this from a young age, to always find what is the truth about the situation. They would come home like, so and so doesn't like me. They made fun of me today, or whatever. And I would teach them, okay, what do you know to be true about this situation? Does so and so tease and make fun of pretty much everyone? Yes. So does that mean that they're picking on you specifically? No. It's like just break it down. I think that's what we need to do. So more than we do is really break it down into what is the fear in this and what is actually the truth of this? And you gave a perfect example of that, of digging into what's actually true. What do I know to be true about this? What do I have no idea about this? What is totally unknown about this situation? And what can I use to build on? What can I use to make it work for me? So good.
Thank you. I've got one of the things I'm working on with my 4-year-old is he's going through these like periods where he's afraid to go to the bathroom by himself, or he's afraid to go into his room by himself. And so recently it's been in the bathroom. And so whenever he goes in there, he always wants someone right there with him. And I remember saying to him a couple weeks ago, you go to the bathroom all the time. You don't have anyone with you. You're a big boy. You don't need to be fearful. When you went into the bathroom last time, what happened? When you went there last time, did anything attack you? Did anything hurt you? Did anything scare you? Or did you use the restroom, wash your hands, and come out? And that's something that I was working on building with him, is looking at the facts again, but this was without writing down. This is all verbal.
Right. No, but I love that example because, oh my word. I mean, when you think about it, we get deep here, but it really is our inner child, like the little versions of us, the little kid within us that is experiencing that fear. It's not this grown up version of us, it's the little version of us inside. And to be able to maybe in our own way talk to ourselves like we would a child, walk it through just like that, because with a child you simplify things. You keep it simple, you don't overcomplicate it, you don't overthink it. You just really keep it simple, small steps. And I think as adults, we need that too. Do you think that's true?
Absolutely. I mean, like, if, let's say with the job example again, when you got your last job, did you think that you were going to get hired? Did you think that you were going to do as well as you did and get all the promotions that you got? I mean, I definitely did not think when I first started that job in the healthcare field that I was going to come straight out of school and I was going to be working for a practice and eventually I'd be managing it. I mean, that was not even on my thoughts. But then if I look back over to, wait, I did do that. I did start from the bottom. I did start as an intern. I did get hired. I did go into another position and another position and another position. And it was just proof for me that, I can do what I set my mind to, and I can do those things that are scary and hard. And it's just that practice.
It is. It is. And I said this to a friend the other day, and I think it's fitting here to share as well, that we forget how far we've come. Like, I forget how far I've come when I go back and look at, I have like a whole documentary, a little mini documentary of what all I've been through. And I go back and look at that. I think, oh my gosh, like I've forgotten like how bad it was. And so what one of my therapists suggested was that I write down, like, on a timeline almost, like, these are all the things that I've been through. These are all the things that I have overcome, all the things that I have worked my way through, all the adversities that I've been through. All of this, I've conquered all of this so far, and here I am. And oh my gosh, how much more is there to go? Like, how much more is possible if I've already been through all of these things and I've made it to where I am now. And so I feel like, again, it's a visual reminder. That's me. It may just be the way my brain works, but I love a good visual reminder of, look at all of this. When I get into those places where I'm like not feeling so great about myself, yeah, I have those times too. Then I pull that out and I look at that and I'm like, oh man, oh yes, Amy, you got this. All right, we've done all this. You can still do it. So I love that so much.
You mentioned after you found out about breaking your neck, being in bed 23 hours a day. Am I remembering that correctly? I mean, and
Yes.
now what you're able to do, you said you went from your daily living and being with your kids and all of that to being in bed and not being able to do things for yourself. And now, what are you doing with this podcast? What are you doing right now? What did you do before you got on this podcast that was not laying in bed for 23 hours?
It's so true. Yeah, it is. And I have always been very determined, like achievement minded. Like I want to do and accomplish as much as I can, you know, and obviously to be able to do nothing for an entire year was like a form of torture for me. But I learned so much through that. Like one of the things I learned was that I don't have to be doing something to be accomplishing. Like I still have to rest. I still have to take a nap. I still have to rest my neck every
Yep.
day. And I have reframed it. And this is another tool I use that may be helpful for some of you is reframing. Yes, I have to lay down. I have to go to sleep and rest every day, but that is part of my accomplishment. Like I'm still accomplishing something while I'm doing that. Because if I didn't do that, oh my word, it would be horrible. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm able to do if I wasn't taking care of myself and doing those things. And so reframing it into a way that tricks my brain into this is accomplishment. You know, I am doing something is really, really helpful for me. That's been a really good tool for me.
Absolutely. You had said you were talking about, I'm gonna have a brain freeze right here. Um,
Happens to me all the time.
it just happened, and when you're live, it just makes it even more so.
Absolutely. Yes.
You were talking, oh, I know what it was. You were talking about the end of the season and how you were going to take a break, that the podcast was still going to be here, but you were going to take a break and kind of do some resetting and recovering. And it's such a good thing that you realized that was one of the things that you needed, because when you are drained, not saying that you are, but when you are drained and you are overdoing yourself or overextending yourself, that can cause that fear to be even worse, because you're so drained in your daily life that you can't even think past that next week. It's too much to process because you're already up to here with your your fatigue. I mean, it's one of those balancing acts we have to do. I mean, I mentioned that I have two toddlers. I also
Yes.
mentioned I have a business and I'm working with clients and everything. So it's like there's a lot on my plate. So for me, like another thing I took on with trying to kind of recover and recoup, like you're doing with the podcast, is I started weightlifting and I'm doing some weight training. And it's like, it's one of those mental health things for me, because it's another goal that I'm working on. It's another thing that I'm trying to achieve, but it's also part of my mental health, and your break from the podcast that you're coming back to is a part of your mental health and your physical well-being. And that's such a good thing that you realize that that was necessary.
Yes. Oh, so, so true. Stephanie is commenting here saying that prevention is less difficult than recovery. So true, isn't it? That just start with prevention, then you don't have to go into recovery. And
Yeah.
Faith is saying you absolutely can. Like, absolutely. Yes, we got people cheering us on over here. I love this so much. And watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love this. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have enjoyed this so much, Shawntae. I would love, before we hop off here, for you to tell people a little bit about what you do and how they can reach you if they would like to know more about you.
So the business that I ended up opening is I am a financial coach. The company is called Empowered You Financial Coaching. You can find me on mainly on Facebook. I have a women's only financial group where I discuss little financial things here and there. We talk about debt payoff, we talk about credit scores, we talk about budgeting, financing, all of those things. I'm also a Ramsey Preferred Coach, so I do Financial Peace University courses, and I'm working on spreading those out through some of my local churches, and I'm going to be doing some live ones too, but that has not started yet. That's in the works. But it's financial coaching, and again, it's one of those things that I said I didn't even know existed until after the fact, until I took that step of faith. And then I realized everything that I had been doing my whole life had kind of been preparing me for this. I mean, um, I grew up with a single mom that didn't have a lot of money and really struggled, but on the same side, I also had grandparents who had done very well for themselves and had prepared financially for the future. And well into their 70s and 80s, they're still doing quite well for themselves because of how they prepared. So I kind of saw both sides of it. And my whole life has been learning all of these things so I could then coach other people to get them through their own huge financial losses or financial gains. I mean, it's part of the reason why I was able to get through that 60% income loss. And I love sharing that with other people. And it's an absolute passion of mine.
That's so good. I have done Financial Peace University. Is that what it's called? Is that what you said it's called? Yes.
It
And oh my gosh, so much, so many things I didn't know that I didn't know. You know, I say that about a lot of things, but that's definitely one that I didn't know so much about that and learned so much. So that can be super helpful. I will add your links, your
Thank
Facebook
you.
link and your group link to the description after we get off here. And
It's good.
then so people can contact you and connect with you there. Is that's the best way for them to connect with you?
Absolutely. Best way to connect with me is through Facebook. That's where I'm the most active. An email that somebody can reach me on, and I'll give you that link also.
Okay.
So you have it in your email. That's also another way that they can get to me if they're not on Facebook. But again, thank you very much for having me here. I appreciate being a part of this and celebrating the end of this season. What are those achievements that you
I
have
know.
achieved?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Again, I will add your links to the description. And then when I upload it to the podcasting platforms, I will put them in the show notes so that you can just click on them and it will take you right to Shawntae. So, yes, thank you again for being here, for helping me to round out this season one and move into my recovery phase. Hopefully, that's what it will become for me.
That's
But
exactly
yes,
what it will.
yes, yeah, it will. I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to have been able to do this and to help people share their stories and be able to provide a platform like this and just the opportunity to do this, you know, to be able to share my story of hope gained in the midst of adversity so that other people can share theirs too. And I want to also have a lot of people asking me this, so I will go ahead and share this up there. If you're interested in grabbing a copy of my book, people ask me a lot, so I want to share this. It's called "Finding My Hero Within: A Journey from Incapacitation to Empowerment." It is my story of living the past 10 years with a broken neck, how I overcame that adversity and was able to get in touch with my authentic self to become the person I was, uh, the person I was meant to be instead of the person that I was before. And so that is at www.getamyshelp.com/book. And I'll put that in the show notes and the description as well. So thank you again. Oh my gosh, for all of you watching and listening and for tuning in to season one. I'm eager to get back to start to season two. It'll be a month or so, but I will definitely be posting all over my socials when that is ready to go. And hopefully I will see you there. All right, you guys, take care. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.